Welcome to this off-the-cuff episode of Hot Topics.
Welcome.
Hi, and I'm so glad to see your face.
I'm glad to see you too.
Okay, good, because
I feel like we can finally start seeing more of each other. I went in the black hole for a while.
I know. It wasn't that long. It was, you had to do what you had to do to experiment.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. I don't know if it's a hot topic necessarily, but it's an update, hot updates on Janelle and Rebeka's experiment and what we've got going on. And yeah, just to let you know that wherever you are, and you're doing great. And a lot of things can happen up here, and it's totally okay. Your thoughts are just thoughts.
They're just thoughts.
And we'll talk about action later, but a lot of times that's what people say. Your thoughts are thoughts and your actions mean everything. Well, for people who aren't supposed to have a lot of actions, it's like,
it gets confusing. For people who only have definition in the Ajna,
I better make my actions count. They better be high quality or else I'm totally screwed.
Who aren't meant to initiate or respond. It's like, all I got are my thoughts, man.
Yeah.
What do you want from me?
What do you want from us? But yeah, so I guess I'll start off by saying I'm 5 years into my experiment, and this whole time I've been working at a restaurant so that I can pay bills to live, and it's not really great for my energy. Besides that, I love being outside and spending time with my husband and my dogs and doing a lot of really simple things. I used to think that I had like a lot of that whole like you have to like juice it all. I need to look it up. I know there's a gate where you feel like you have to get everything out of life. I think it's in the root. I think I have it. And I used to think that every day, and especially as social media started to become more popular, every day had to be like fun and this and that, and you're going to have to do this, and like everything has to be exciting. Like all your interests and stuff that you enjoy doing on a regular basis have to be really exciting, and they can't be like coffee shop dates with your husband or wandering around in our little downtown or going for hikes or walks with our dog. Like that's just stuff that's in everybody's life, but I needed to fit like action-packed, cool, exciting things to like be fulfilled in life. And then I realized that actually the things that you enjoy doing are just that, and you should enjoy doing them without judging them, because I was being very judgy of myself. But also I think because I learned that I was a projector, it kind of let me off the hook. Like, phew. I don't really have the energy for like super action-packed days every day. And I think that really gets a lot of projectors, because they feel like if there's not a lot going on every single day consistently, then they're not living life correctly, and they need to get more out of it. And how are they going to get more when really it's less?
Well, and that's an interesting thing to think about too, because there are the energy projectors who have more energy, and that's where my brain always goes when we talk about projectors specifically in general. It like drives me nuts. I'm like,
I know
they're so different. There could be a projector with 8 centers defined.
I know you're right. That's true. They're good, but they don't have consistent life energy.
Right. That's the one thing that none of us have, for sure.
That's kind of where I think it's interesting to focus on. And like I told you, I've been telling you, I guess, for the past couple of weeks, that I've been really paying attention to the gates I have defined in the sacral. And I think I might start doing it with the other like lower centers, because I feel if I can feel the energy of that gate, then I'm feeling the energy of that center. And then maybe I'm getting more in my body, Yeah. Sometimes I need a little bit more of a guidance or something, and the gates can kind of give that to you. I've told you that with my gate 5 and like how I like rhythms and cycles. And when like I have a really good morning routine, because I love my morning routine, I like when I can do it in a specific order and when I have a lot of time. And when that happens, I feel very like satisfied, and that's very much sacral energy. So to me, I'm like, well, that's cool, but also don't get too like, it has to go this way. That's when my undefined root gates are like, "Hurry."
Yeah, yeah, you have a lot of undefined root pressure for sure.
Mhm. I don't even think I have that many root gates. I think I might have one or two. It's just,
You don't, that's why it is, because you just have this like blank space around it. So
I
it's
know.
like, hey,
Where to go with this? We have nowhere to go. And you're right. It's very much like, hey, I've said this before, but the root center is that person behind me going, hey, go, move forward, move. Like,
yes.
no, I don't want to. But yeah, so I've been doing a job that's kind of meh, but I've been really leaning into the stuff I like to do besides that. I'm only there 3 days a week now. That was like an evolution. Because I was there full time for a while, which was, I don't even know how that would go. And now I'm in this place where I want to share what I know and I want to help people, but in my own 6 lines way, and guide people, but not in a traditional manner at all. And like, that's kind of where it is. I don't like to think about what it could be specifically. I do human design readings, but
Hmm.
I've told you this for a little while. I don't know if that's like, I like it, but I'm like, is this the thing? Is this the thing?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm really into it, but the guidance counseling thing that I've been doing recently has been the most that I felt like, oh, this is kind of cool. But I also always have this like back of my mind feeling or thought that I'm not supposed to be doing this by myself. And I don't think
Same.
and I think that you and I working together in the way that we do is very helpful, but I still get the message, you don't do this by yourself. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I have Rebeka, what more do you want from me? And they're like, well, you need more people. And I'm like, God darn it. I don't want more, like, I don't want to have to rely on other people. And that brings in the whole trust thing. And it's just like, what? So that's kind of where I am. And we were talking about this before we came on, that we were feeling kind of like stuck at the end of a cycle, you know?
Yeah.
And there's the beginning of a new cycle, which is exciting.
Yeah. It's
Because
just
you're
interesting.
done with school, so you're not teaching for the summer.
Right. So subbing is done, and like I was telling you, it just feels like this release that I like, some kind of energy I was holding on to that I didn't realize I was holding on to. And so the past couple days have been really just weird. They've gone by, I've been kind of stuck like energetically, but I've also just really wanted to just be quiet. Like I just want to sit on my porch and feed Chester the squirrel and sit and listen to the wind blow, and like that's it. But of course I have other things that I need to do. But yeah, and so when you were telling me, you're like, well then just like give yourself that time to rest, to separate the ending of this and to step into the beginning of this. It was like just affirming what I knew in my system, but wasn't allowing myself somehow. Like,
Mhm.
okay, that sounds good. Let's go empty the dishwasher.
Well, because it's like you're leaving a time of work, of doing something that you don't necessarily feel like is your thing.
Right.
I think you like it more than I like waiting. I know you like it more than I like waiting tables, but I know you want something more, something different. And so it
Yes.
feels like, because you don't have to do that thing anymore, you shouldn't be tired, or you shouldn't be like feeling the way that you're feeling, because you should just be like, relieved, or new energy, now let's go. And I think a lot of people don't realize that even if like something comes to an end that maybe you wanted to come to an end, it doesn't mean that you don't need like the space and the time to process that whole experience. Because yeah, now maybe
Yeah.
you're like, oh cool, I have more time for myself and all my stuff, but then everything comes into your mind, mental projector of, okay, what's all of the stuff that I want to do and see and be and make? And then it's everything. And it's a lot and it's too much. And
Yeah.
this is what happens to me, is I'm like, all right, I'm open and ready to receive the new stuff that's gonna happen for me. And then like I get all these random weird ass thoughts of like new hobbies I want, new things that might be like a job or this or that and the other, and they just all fly in. But I can't, I can't like do anything with it. I'm like, this is too much. But I think sometimes, yeah, you just need to, and you also should like, you're like, good job. Especially
Yeah,
with your kids, because they are going through some big like milestones in their life, and they want
they
you to be
are.
around, and they are happy that you're there, and they're going to come visit you from college. I know that they will.
I know. Well, it's pretty cute. And it's really, I'm realizing as I'm talking to you, like I feel like I need to kind of mourn this past year and just allow the feelings to come up.
Yeah.
Because yeah, there is a lot more processing that I'm realizing. Like it's just hitting me now. Today I was running a couple errands because I'm trying to find a cute outfit to wear to graduation tomorrow.
Mhm.
And and the whole time, like in the back of my mind, there was like, you know how you kind of you like mull over conversations, or you like think about what you would have wanted to say or what you learned from a situation. So of course that whole situation with the long-term subbing, and like I got nervous that I'd have to see one of the teachers at graduation. I don't know if she'll be there, but I thought, oh crap, what if she's there? Like that would be really annoying. And so obviously there's some things that I just need to let come to the surface and heal if I just spent half a day randomly thinking about all this stuff.
Yeah, because it's like when you go back, it's going to be, if you go back, I don't know if you're going to go back, but if you decided to go back, it'll be totally different. Like it'll be a different time, it'll be a new year. I mean, I know it's a lot of the same students, but it's also new students and new faculty, and like, so it'll almost be like this time, it's not over, but like, and these people's minds, they will have, this is part of the reason why I really enjoy working at the restaurant. Not enjoy it, but this is let me walk
An
that back.
aspect you enjoy.
This is a very tiny aspect that I enjoy at this very stupid job. Is that when I go home the next day, no one remembers anything that happened the day before. If like you screwed up a bunch of times, no one remembers. If like if you cried, if like all this embarrassing shit happened, nobody knows. Everything has changed, and
Yes,
you don't
but
even have to do it again. So that's
these
one of the tiny aspects I like.
and that would be awesome. But these teachers I worked with are very much mean girls. Like the
Oh,
teacher that I subbed for, she came back to the campus to finish up some stuff. And I went and talked to the new teacher. I'm like, hey, how'd it go? What's going on? Apparently, she was so upset about some of the changes he made in the classroom. Like she decorated it the way she wants. It's like Hobby Lobby threw up in her classroom. It was cute, but he's a man and he's like, I don't want to sit in a pink chair and I don't want to have all these girly aspects in the room. And I'm like, it's
yeah.
your classroom. Do what you want. Like it's yours now. You're the one that's living in
Yeah,
this
she's
room,
not coming
basically.
back, so why does it matter?
Right, but she got so pissed that apparently she dropped the F-bomb like at least 5 times in the middle of class when the students were in there.
Oh no.
So
Well, she
she's
probably can't come back now.
so,
That's crazy.
so yeah, it's just like the pettiness.
Yeah.
But and of course that gets in my system because mental projector stuff.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, it's okay. You're gonna let
yeah,
it release, but it might take longer than you
yes,
thought. It usually
yes.
does. Especially I think if like you said, you don't have a whole lot of if we don't have a whole lot of definition, it's almost like there's more stuff to get through. And I know that a lot of times people are like, well, undefined centers are just as great as defined centers. And you're right, they are, but they do different things. Like they have different
They do different things, and our
energetic
aura
things.
is, yeah, our aura is penetrating, and the thing with mental projectors, like that's even more amplified because of our open body plus our
Mhm.
penetrating aura. And Ra would always say, you know, in his weird raw way with his sense of humor, he's like, as a projector, you kind of have to imagine yourself as a cannibal and like, do you want to eat this person that you're in aura with? Because that's how intense
Oh
our
my
aura
God.
is, right? Like we really just,
I haven't heard this. I love this.
yes. He's like, you just get in there. It's penetrating. You get in there because that's how we guide people, which of course is why the recognition and invitation is so important.
Mhm.
So when you're a not self projector, let alone a not self mental projector, you completely absorb the other person,
Mhm.
which explains my first
It's
marriage, like on so many
exhausting.
levels.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, that's what's interesting too, is just really observing some of the energetic stuff that went on, and realizing that even though I was very I feel very aware in my experiment, how some of the stuff still just kind of happens where I'll catch myself like, oh my gosh, I've just
Mhm.
been really pretending to be this version of myself. Whenever I'm around this person, like I just act in this different way and it's not me.
Mhm.
So
But the awareness part is the part, like like we were talking about before, we're unconsciously gonna think things that maybe are not healthy for us to think, or we're unconsciously gonna feel petty or change the way that we are or be jealous, or all this stuff's gonna happen because we're human beings. And these are, I mean, if you grew up in the United States, I would say these are things that are just like we learn these things,
mhm.
and it's just where your thoughts go sometimes. You're not a bad person if you have a bad thought. Like it just doesn't go that way because you can't step in front of the thought and make it stop before. Like it happens first and then you go, I'm a horrible person for thinking that. Like I said before we came on, we had smoky skies and I was like, oh, this is so annoying. We have smoke in the sky. And then I was like, oh, crap, why did I think that? Like I'm not having to deal with the actual fire. That must be so much worse. Those people must have it so much worse than me.
Yeah.
It's okay that I was annoyed by the smoke. The awareness piece of me going, actually, there's probably other people. Because then I thought about that and I was like, oh yeah, they're dealing with that sucks. Like then I started to send them like good thoughts and stuff. And
Mhm.
that whole thought process was totally normal and regular. And you can't, I learned this a long time ago. I had to learn this because for a long time I thought that negative thoughts were weak and don't have them and just stop them from happening. You just stop them. Other people just stop them. So I
Mm.
can stop them. We'll stop them. And that's not possible. So you just make yourself insane. And then you feel like crap about yourself because you can't stop negative thoughts from happening. And then you're thinking more about the negative thoughts. And then it's like, oh, instead of observing them and going, oh, right now I feel kind of low about myself, maybe, and about some other things. I can see that, I can feel that. This is what the product of that feeling is, are these thoughts. And it's totally cool because I'm not those things. I'm just
Yeah.
in this spot right now and I can be aware, you
Yeah,
know.
it's just an observation because your mind just wants to keep you safe. So
Yeah.
it's doing its job.
That's a good way to think about it is, yeah, your mind wants to keep you safe, but there's a lot of things, I don't know, that I feel like I guess for me it's trust. Does that mean like my mind doesn't trust people? Doesn't feel like it's safe to trust people
Well, yeah, because you
in the
have those
universe?
old stories. Because of the limiting beliefs that imprint in your nervous system, like they get in there, and so the mind's like, oh, okay, when we trust people, shit goes down, or whatever it is. Like, I mean, it's likely something
I
from your
think it's like
childhood,
trust
as it usually
myself
is. Yeah.
mostly. Because
Well,
when I
that
talk about
too.
trusting the universe and trusting the universe and trusting the universe, I really think that's trusting myself. And I don't.
Hmm.
The reason I don't trust myself is because I'm not where I would want to be if I was looking at myself as a person going, oh, I trust that person to lead me. I don't trust myself to lead me because I'm not where I want to be. How can I trust myself?
Mm.
I have no proof of that I can actually be where I want to be because I'm not there yet. It's like the biggest, stupidest catch-22 ever. It's like, how do I know I can do it if I haven't done it?
Right. But then you're a 3 line, so you can't do it until you do it.
Oh my gosh, this is why sometimes human design is like melts my brain, because it literally, the things that were like the hard, most conditioned, most ingrained, the things you didn't want to look at or talk about, or you thought were like over and done with, and who cares about those things? They present themselves to you in human design by going, oh, well, you
Yes.
can't do this without doing this. And you're like, well, that's not fair. And it's like, you're designed to do it this way, and you want to go the other way so badly. And in my,
Yes.
I tell myself, I'm like, oh, I'm so good at being a 3rd line. Like, I'm great at experimenting and whatever. I don't know if I am.
Well, and then we think about your motivation being innocence. And so it's really just about kind of playing with life and really getting into that experiment feel. And so when we go to the transferred of desire, and you desire to know what's happening, and you desire to
Well, I
um
went live today in Facebook and pulled cards. That's what I wanted to tell you. And that fits perfectly with the innocence thing, because I literally was sitting, it was this morning, I was thinking about something. I'm like, I wonder if Facebook has like live tarot reading groups. Like, that's all that people do. And I'm like, they have to have that. Like, that has to be a thing.
Yeah.
So I look it up, and there's a trillion, million, billion. And so I joined a couple, because I feel like if I went live on my own page, it wouldn't, like, I don't know.
It would just be different.
Yeah. But this group has like 30,000 followers or whatever, and you're going live in the group. So I was like, all right. So
That's so cool.
I did it, and there was a few people that came in, and I had a few questions. So I did get to pull for some people, and I was very much like, hey guys, I'm new to this thing, but I totally love it. I'm reading from my book, but I don't care. And I don't care if you care. Like, I was very much like, hey, listen, I'm going to go in the order that people ask me, and I'm not going to go back and explain. So just listen when I do it. And this is how I shuffle the cards. And I was like, very much like, look at how I do this. This is how things go. And it was really it was really fun, and it was really cool. And I do feel a little like, when I'm flipping through the book, I'm like, oh, hey, I'm trying to like talk as I'm trying to like find these cards really quick, because I don't know. As soon as I see the interpretation, I go, oh, and then I start talking, because I will remember it will like, but I don't just remember what a lot of the cards mean. I remember what the suit means, and so I can go, oh, well, this is pentacles. This usually means money and family and blah, blah, blah. It's swords does not mean penises all the time, but it can, and all this other stuff as I'm flipping through the book. So it's not bad, but part of me, like a little tiny voice, my root is like, hurry up, find it. You need it. You can't be looking through this book. Like, come on, let's go.
Right. But and that heart is like, you need to prove.
But no one said anything about it. And I was very much like, hey, I am new. Ask me questions. Like, and then I even threw in some human design stuff and told people to figure out their design, because if they ask me a question and then said, and I'm a projector, and I'm a manifester, then I can pull with that in mind. And when I interpret, I'll like, that's there. I'm like, okay, that's because I know this person's a projector. This is how this is probably what the interpretation for them is supposed to be, because this is how they're supposed to interact with the world. So this is the best piece of it, because the cards can mean a million different things. People can interpret them an infinite amount of ways. So if I get a little information about who you are, and I go, oh, okay, well, energetically, this is how you should interpret this card, because that's what would work best for you. So that's what I did. It felt very motivation in a sense, because like, oh, I was like, oh, this will be fun. And I saw myself like setting up my corner before I even thought about, because usually if I want to do something spontaneous like this, I have to look through my day planner and go, okay, where does this fit?
Usually when I want to be spontaneous, I have to plan it.
Yes. And Sean's at a wedding. So I was like, well, Sean's gone. And he left, and I was like, well, I have that thing at 2. It's like, well, what else should I do? And I was like, I'm going to do it right now. And I felt like almost like not guilty, but like, hey, I'm ditching my planner, and I'm going to do something that I think is fun. And it was like 20 minutes. So it wasn't like, it wasn't super long, and I'll probably go back on tonight and do it again, because it was fun. But yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the innocence motivation part, because that's kind of how I felt about that.
Yeah.
But I think when things like that happen, I don't realize how rigid I am, and how like like really hanging on to that conditioning. Like
Mhm.
I don't realize it until I go the other way. And I'm like, oh, like I'm supposed to do all the fun stuff and not really care about to-do lists or anything. But I felt guilty a little bit, even though my to-do lists are literally like shit for myself. Like repot plants and make another necklace and prep the pod for this coming week, and I have a reading tomorrow, so like some notes. So it's not like a lot of stuff. So it's just funny that I feel guilty, like not doing the things that I wrote down and set for myself to possibly do today.
I I can relate to that though. I feel like that's some undefined root stuff.
When I know I shouldn't be writing shit down in the first place. Half the time I'm like, why am I writing this stuff down? I shouldn't do that. But my gate 5 is like, you have, like, just write it. Just write it. You don't have to do it, just write it. That's what
Yeah.
my gate
Well,
5 says.
I tell undefined root people to do that all the time because it helps me. It's like it soothes the root just to write it down. It's like, okay. It's like then the root's like, okay, now you're aware of what you need to do. And then you can be the boss of it. Like, yes, thank you for the to-do list.
But
Now I'm gonna go do
sometimes
this.
I'm not a good boss. Sometimes I think that's the consequences of doing what you said. And I have to just be aware, okay, the consequence of writing this down is if you don't do this for a second, you're probably going to be annoyed at yourself. So is that cool? Okay. And then, but then you'll see it and be like, it's cool. You don't have time to do this. It's totally fine. It'd be much better if you relaxed for this hour instead of like this random task for an hour. And
Yeah.
it's more, I think that's what it is I have to be aware of the consequences that are going to unconsciously just go, because I feel like that root is almost like the voice of the feelings and the thoughts that happen first, the things that we can't control. Like it's my root says stuff and does stuff before I know what's happening. And I'm like, hey, I actually don't feel that way, but thanks for annoying me for a second. Like I almost, and gosh, I'm gonna have to start thinking about that and messing around with that. Cause I feel like a lot of times when it comes to my root center energy, I've been doing what I used to do with negative thoughts and negative feelings, which is you can't do that. You can't have those. And I feel like I've been doing a lot of the same thing with the root energy is like, you're not allowed to feel that because that's your not self root and you know what that is. And you're aware that that's what it is. So you don't feel that, but it happens first. And then I go, hey, don't. I think I just have to allow.
Yeah, because it's just energy, like it's just doing its job.
Yeah. And then I think the more that I allow it, perhaps, and this will be an experiment on my part, perhaps it will be more slow to the get up and I'll be able to be like, oh, it looks like I'm not going to get to this thing on my list. And before I can go, well, you totally fucked up the whole day in my like mind, maybe I'll go, but that's okay. And then the root will start to be like, and I'm like, actually, I already said that's okay. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll practice. I'll practice with it. I know I make the root sound like this evil monster, but
I think
it messes with me a lot.
Yeah, it's just part of your journey because of all the openness. I mean, it's so open on your chart because you don't have anything.
Now you're making me want to look again. I know my chart, but when you say stuff sometimes, it like integrates in my head in a better way than when I was thinking about it before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just have the little lonely 58 reaching out for the spleen.
And then you have 9 coming down from the sacral, kind of reaching down to the root. And then that is it.
There's nothing, and it's ghostly down there. Oh, you're right. You know, this is why I love you, is because I've always known I've had a lot of energy around the throat, like, well, obviously Asha throat, because that's what we got. And then the identity, I've always noticed that. But I never really noticed that all my little gate like colors and swooshes kind of just really dwindle at the bottom.
Yes.
It's just the one. And so the fact that like the root center would be like this, like I almost want to fight it in a boxing match. It kind of makes sense to me.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to tamper the energy of it.
Well, now I think I'm gonna pull out my notes from Just Feels and read just specifically about the root center because I know there's stuff I can do. I know when people talk about the root center, they talk a lot about grounding, and I feel like I need to deepen my practices in those. I think maybe longer meditations, and I haven't walked by myself in a really long time. I was gonna go today, and now it's like pouring rain, so I don't know. But I have plenty of time this weekend, so I think I will. But yeah, I never really. The root is very much like my childhood, where I'm like, nah, I don't need to think about that.
Yeah.
That's over there.
And ooh, Janelle, and the root chakra is all about security. It's all about financial stability and your connection to
It
the earth,
is
right? Yes, yes. It's like because it's rooted to the earth, right? So it's about your resources. It's
material
about
plane.
yes.
Mhm.
And so the root center in human design really talks about securing your place in the material plane, right? With the adrenaline and with the motorized pressure. So that's how they kind of overlap. So then it also makes sense why you might have some trouble trusting yourself to create these resources with the openness down there. It's like it just doesn't really know what it's doing all the time.
Okay, Janelle, when you're watching this back, you cut that clip right there because that's the story, right? That's it. Because I have time. Sometimes I have a hard time finding them, but look at your arms are waving. This is the clip. And everyone should listen to this episode just for what you just said, because I don't really think about stuff in that regard. And I think I do that. I really pay attention to the parts and pieces that feel safe and like, okay, we can look at these like in my chart specifically. And then the things that I like the root center, I'm just like, it's way down there. Who cares? Like I talk about the
We'll gloss over that
sacral, the
one.
emotional center. I'm like, oh, I take everybody's shit in. I know how that goes. Like that's always gonna happen. Like be a sponge, or be a window, not a sponge. Yeah, I get it. I don't like do. I don't. I don't really think about why these parts and pieces like really and like bother me and what I'm like I avoid things. I'm very good at avoiding things that I don't want to deal with.
Well, I feel like this is a good example of our motivations because innocence is like, I don't know, let's go play with the flowers. And fear motivation is like, what's happening here? Let's analyze everything.
I know. It's so, gosh, it's so funny because it's just like you said. And now I'm like thinking about all this stuff. And we've talked about like how I don't like to think about my childhood or talk about it or whatever. And I really still haven't. It's interesting because when we had the podcast with Travis and he said that people do that for you. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, people help you with that. And I was like, no, I find something online and I read it and I do it myself, right? No, I have to have somebody do this for me. I think that really halted me because
really,
I don't want to pay somebody to help me. But I would love people to pay me to help them.
Yeah, that unpacks so many layers of things.
Ooh, what a jerk. I am a jerk. I would really like to trade a human design reading for inner child work. I'll do a trade. If anybody hears this and they want to trade me, if I feel energetically connected to you and like this would be a good trade, I'll trade you. That works, right?
Okay, but no,
Janelle.
you went straight to judgment, so we've got to not overlooking that.
Bring it back. What did I judge again?
You
Myself?
judged yourself.
Damn.
You're like, oh, I'm a jerk. It's like, no, you're a person. It's scary to spend money in a lot of ways, especially with your specific wounds that you have.
That because I don't want to spend money, but I'm like really wanting people to pay me.
No, I know. That's what I'm trying to unpack for a second.
Okay.
Because that's just
like an asshole.
Well, it's just what happens a lot because it's scary to spend the money, but then you need money to survive and you know that you have this skill so I mean, on some level, you're going to have to get to a point where you're okay spending money to support yourself in these ways because for, I mean, for a lot of reasons, but also having somebody else walk you through this stuff. I mean, you're a mental projector. You have to soundboard. So literally, probably all you need to do is just be in the room with somebody else. I can't tell you how many times I was in therapy and I just therapized myself and ended up turning into the therapist for my therapist.
That's part of the reason
because
I don't go to therapy, because I did that to my
Yeah.
first therapist.
yeah, but
Like,
it's
don't you
like
mean this?
I couldn't have come to those conclusions by myself. I couldn't have come to those conclusions outside of that room,
Well,
right?
that is
So
you for me. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. We're friends. I would never. But like, you do that for me a lot. It's like when I say something out loud and I just see your look, and I'm like, I know what she's thinking, and she's right. So should I say it first, or should I let her say it? It's very much like that. And I agree with you. And I guess that's true. I guess like I can start off with not necessarily having to pay somebody, but just soundboarding. Like,
I mean, you don't have to, but and I mean, there's all kinds of options. It's not like you have to go to the person with a, couple $1,000 offer. There's all kinds of things.
No, I know. I know I could make it like make sense for me financially. I think another big part of it is I don't who do you pick? Like, how do you know?
I know that's the hard thing, but I work with this person every once in a while because she's so impactful. It's amazing. She's a manifestor. So let me look up her chart. Because the first time we worked together, we did a little trade thing. And
I might be cool with that. A trade.
She does this thing called SRT, subconscious reprogramming technique. It is mind blowing. So I'll just like tell her, I just like go in martyr mode. She's great. She's like, just whine about whatever's happening. So I'm like, blah. And she's like, okay. And then she'll just like stop me. She gets in full manifestor mode. And this is what blows my mind, seeing a peaceful manifestor working. And the impact that has is so amazing. So then you just do these things. Literally, she'll pick stuff. She'll tell you what to say. You breathe in, you hold your breath, and you repeat what she says, and you let it go. And then it goes through this whole release technique. And then it's like you're cured. And it's the weirdest thing. Like the first time I worked with her, we went through a bunch of blocks that I had, and then the next day I had to go to my kid's birthday party, and my kid's dad was there, and he was being really, really weird. Like usually we're fake nice to each other and it's fine, but he was like ignoring me. And I just sat there and I was like, I just have so much love in my heart for him. Like he's being weird and I don't even care. Like I'm not taking it personally. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it like every time I work with her, it's like this next level of stuff. And
I just wish you could know that that's how it was going to be with somebody before you gave them money to do their shit. Because to me, that just sounds like, I don't know if that would work. I mean, I don't. It's interesting that you say it like that, because when I was pulling cards today, usually my hang up with the cards is I don't want to say something that's wrong. I don't want to give people the wrong advice, or I don't want someone to message me and be like, actually, the 9 of Pentacles means this, and you're totally wrong. Even though I know from what I've read from tarot is that there's tons of interpretations, and you're also supposed to include your intuitive interpretations. So really there's no wrong. And that has helped me a lot to where I could do the live and just be like, because I was saying stuff and usually I think about it. I'm like, oh, we should think. And I was just saying shit. I'm like, oh God, I hope I didn't like.
That's so awesome.
When people were like, should I get back together with E, or is this something that's going to happen with J? I was like, oh, they used the names. And I was like, all right, well, we're going with names then. But, and I felt like this thing saying like, you can't tell them definitively yes or no, because you don't know, because you can't tell the future. And I was like, well, I can still say what I think without overanalyzing it too much. So that's because I had to, because I was doing it kind of fast. So it really helped me to be okay with the way that I interpret the cards, and to tell people that and realize it's okay. Like they're asking you for this. And I'm not saying like, fucking jump off a building, you have wings, you can fly. Like I'm not
Right.
It's not questions like that. In fact, the one group that I'm a part of, you are not allowed to ask health questions or
Oh,
legal questions.
okay. That seems
I
smart that
love
they have
that. I'm
that in
like,
place.
good, great, because if I don't want to mess with someone's health or wealth, I guess, because that's a lot
Right.
of legal. And like, yeah, they were like, if you have questions about this, ask the appropriate professional. And I was like, thank goodness that you're telling people that.
Yes, that's amazing.
Yeah. So
Well, I'm proud of you for going on there. I know that's been a thing for a while.
it was fun. It was actually, as soon as I found it, I was like, I'm going to do this right now. I want to do this right now. I think I needed to find like a spot where that's what everybody was doing. So that's what's
Hmm.
expected. And they encourage you, like, join, everybody can read for anybody. Like, but like, it's very much like, we know you could be a beginner at this and nobody gives a shit. And I think
Cool.
that was like, oh my God. And I'm wondering if that's how people who are new to human design feel when they find like human design groups. And
Hmm.
people are like, ask your dumbass questions. We don't care. We're going to tell you what we think, but they're not stupid questions. Just ask us. Because that's what I feel like. People will come in there and ask some questions that they might feel stupid because that's the beginning of human design, or it's something that they think that they should know already. And it's like,
I know
no.
someone in my DMs asked me a question and then she's like, I'm so ashamed. I've only been in my experiment for a year. And I was like, why are you ashamed of that? Every single person has only been in their experiment for a year at some point. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
It's
where
not
you
like,
are.
yeah, it's not like it's easy to find this thing.
Right.
They don't make it easy.
They
Unless,
don't make it easy, but I do feel like there's a lot of judgment, which is
yeah,
for another episode, but
yeah, yeah. I think you're right. And I think that this is good. We did a good one this time. We had no plans, people. We just came on like, let's just talk and see what happens. And this is
this
usually
is,
what happens.
yeah, this is what came out.
So thanks for listening. And if you have a question about human design, it's not stupid, and we'd love to hear it too. Um,
Mhm.
and it could be a new episode for the podcast. You don't even know. You could
You
be
can
giving
inspire
us,
us.
yeah, we have undefined crowns, so it can be really nice to be inspired. So please give us your inspirations. And I want y'all to know, if you're watching on YouTube, we're seeing all your comments, and we thank you so much for enjoying the episodes and for experimenting along with us, and for saying things like, I feel this, I'm with you here. Like, we appreciate you. I was reading the
Yes.
comments the other day, so thank you guys very much. Bye, Rebecca. I'll see
Thanks,
you later.
y'all.